What if I was to tell you that the next global resource war isn't on the land, but under the sea? This week, President Trump signed an executive order that could change the future of critical mineral mining forever. And it all has really to do with China owning 90% dominance in one industry. Most of us really think about this, but we can't live without it, or can we? Because we did used to live without it. Now, deep sea mining seems to be this new gold rush, and the executive order that was signed by Donald Trump, imagine underwater drones that are going to be searching for these precious minerals, for example. So April the 24th, 2025, Trump issued an executive order fast-tracking permits for deep sea mining. Now, the goal is to tap into the ocean's floor, the treasure chest of minerals like cobalt, for example, lithium, and rare earths. These elements are essential for electric vehicles, smartphones, missiles, and even satellites. Now, imagine modern technology plus national defense, critical minerals being mined, for example. This is something completely, it's become new to me. But I wanted to do this video today to really talk about it, to get us thinking about not just gold and silver and business, for example, but our treasure. So Trump's move is aimed to cut US dependence on China and reclaim the mineral independence. But what does that truly mean? What does that truly mean? However, China does have 90% grip on critical minerals. Even the things that we do, we give to China, the Americans give to China, for example, to turn it into what is needed for America. So Chinese mining facilities, shipping ports, for example, rare earth, for example. Here's the reality though. Like I said, China does control 90% of the global processing capacity for rare earth elements. And they do dominate this in the refining process, not just mining. So even if the US finds the minerals, they still rely on China in turn to turn them into a usable material for us to use. So this really gives China an enormous geopolitical leverage. They even have threatened to cut off exports during trade disputes. That's why the US is looking beneath the waves. But could this be avoided? Why can't we just all get on, for example? So the environment, the marine life, I can imagine there's going to be some protests regarding this, because I can't imagine that this will just happen and that no one's going to really say anything. But deep sea mining, it is controversial. Scientists have warned that disturbing these ecosystems could cause irreversible damage. Sediment clouds, destruction, and long-term species lost are just the beginning. We, as humans, we have access to this beauty, to see, to learn, to marvel, but every time we chip away at it, what damage are we doing to ourselves long term, to our future, to the future generations? Is this the price of mineral independence? Or are there ways to do this sustainably? Environmental risk versus resource urgency. Now, I can imagine that there's going to be some legal challenges, for example, and the global impact, the law of the sea, global mining claims. Another twist, America never really rectified the United Nations Law of the Sea Treaty. So this means that the claim to international waters, for example, is complicated. Nations may not recognize US deep sea rights, creating legal risk and geopolitical tensions. This isn't just a mining mission, it's a chess move on the global power board. So tell me in the comments here, what do you think about deep sea mining for minerals that we are using in our everyday lives, for example? Now, there was a time where we didn't use these things, and I know that just seems a bit strange me saying that, but I remember when it wasn't used. We didn't have satellites. We actually had aerials. I remember there was a television and there'd be an aerial, and sometimes we'd put a coat hanger, a metal coat hanger, to get the station, or someone would stand in a certain way and you can actually get a signal, for example. We didn't have mobile phones back then. We had a telephone that we had to put our fingers in and dial round. It was like a really strange thing, but when I look at it, it was fond moments for me. We even, with that phone, those telephones that where you put your finger in and you dial the numbers, till you go round. I remember me and my sisters, because my father put a lock on the phone, and at the time we were able to press the hang up button. It was like we were doing Morse code. So if we were dialing someone's number, so if we wanted to dial number 7, we would tap 7 times. And then we would do the next number If it was number 8, we would tap 8 times until we got to the end of the phone number, and we actually were able to make the call without unlocking the phone. My father was scratching his head thinking, how did they manage, how are these calls being made when the phone is locked? That was how it was back then. Some of you may have done that and some of you may not have done that, for example. But I remember there were days where we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have computers like we have now. We would have pen and paper. I know this sounds really old and old-fashioned, but was it really that bad? We had community. We all knew one another. If we ran out of something, we would, get a cup of sugar or milk from the next door neighbor or neighbor a couple of, houses down, for example. Children would play outside, football, games, till it was late. Even the local shop would know you, for example. And we didn't have all that we have today. People went to work, came back, people got paid cash, for example, sometimes in a brown envelope, for example, and things were a lot simpler then. We've really got into this new world, and I'm trying to understand why things have got to where we are today. And with this mining, deep sea mining that's could be taking place if allowed, what will the effects be to this planet, to the undersea world? That we love to swim. We love to, most people love to swim, for example. We love to go underwater and see beautiful things, beautiful rocks, beautiful, stones, for example, minerals that are naturally there, corals and all of those things. What is that going to do to our shorelines, for example? So I wanted to drop this quick video today because Donald Trump signed an executive order for deep sea mining to start drilling underwater. So what will that effect be for all of us, for example? So what do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. Should we mine the deep sea to escape China's grip? Or will it cost us the planet? The last untouched frontier. Comment below. Let's talk about minerals, money and sovereignty. I believe it's time that we start thinking about building a community so that we can help support one another during these times of uncertainty. For example, everybody in your community has got a special gift, so we can help support one another. There's different things that we can think of to grow and to help our communities, for example. As they say that a village is a community, for example. And is it a bad thing that we look at how things used to be and prepare for that? Maybe we need to look at that so that we are able to survive. So I just wanted to drop this quick thought thought-provoking video, of course, but it's something that, I read that President Trump was, because, I'm interested in gold and silver, stacking, for example, bullion. And I also was looking at the minerals, and it just sort of came into my vision. So I was reading a lot about it and why. Because, at the end of the day, I do, a lot of videos on gold and silver. And also I do videos about the geopolitical, for example, the shifts that are coming soon. So stack smart, stay alert, and remember, currency may crash, but knowledge is wealth. So thank you so much for listening to the video today, and thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. I really, truly appreciate them. And let's build our wealth together for survival, for our future, for our loved ones, for retirement. There's lots of things for survival. We need to think about our silver and gold, for example, as a trade kit for survival, for preparation for if and when the currency crashes. So it's about being prepared as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I will be going live tomorrow at 8 p.m. EST time, for example, and I'm going to be going into some really good information for you to learn from about silver and gold, for example. But today I just wanted to, mention this because it is topical. It is, it's Donald Trump signed the order for deep sea mining. I said deep sea then. For deep sea mining. All right, so have a wonderful evening, everyone, and thank you for listening to my video today. Take care. Thank you so much. Goodbye.